Nancy, France. September 19th, 1944. 6:57 in the morning. The room smells of coffee, cigarettes, and something sharper. Fear. General Marcus Blackwood stands behind his desk. 59 years old. 5 feet 11 inches of coiled fury wrapped in olive drab. His hands rest on the ivory handles of twin Colt .45 pistols. The legendary weapons everyone knows. The ones that became symbol before the man wearing them ever fired a shot in anger. His eyes pale blue Arctic lock on the man standing 6 feet away. Major Elliot Ashford, British Army, 34, Oxford educated, fluent in German, French, and the careful diplomatic language that keeps coalitions from fracturing. His uniform is immaculate, pressed to knife edges, boots polished to a mirror shine reflecting weak morning light through the window. That shine won't matter in 30 seconds. Blackwood's right hand moves, slow, deliberate. He draws one of those ivory pistols, the weight familiar, comfortable. An extension of his arm after 3 years of war. He doesn't point it yet, just holds it, barrel down, casual. Ashford's throat moves, a swallow everyone in the room can see. Colonel Nathaniel Vaughn stands near the door. 52, Chief of Staff. He's frozen now, hand halfway to his sidearm, not sure if he should stop this or document it. Lieutenant Cordelia Drake stands behind Vaughn. 29. Signals intelligence. The woman who decoded the transmission that started everything. Her face is pale. She knows what's about to happen because she made it possible. Blackwood takes 3 steps around his desk, boot heels on wooden floor. Thud, thud, thud. Each step erases distance. Each step makes the air thinner. He stops 2 feet from Ashford, raises the pistol, places the barrel against Ashford's forehead, right between his eyes, where perfectly combed hair meets perfectly pale skin. The metal is cold. Ashford can feel it. Everyone watching can somehow feel it. The weight of that barrel, the promise of what it contains. Blackwood's hand is steady, not trembling, not shaking, not even a quiver. That's what makes it terrifying. This isn't rage, this is calculation. Give me one reason, Blackwood says, voice quiet, almost conversational. One single reason why I shouldn't execute a British spy. The clock on the wall ticks, loud, intrusive, counting seconds that feel like minutes. Ashford's breathing comes fast, shallow. The breathing that happens when a man realizes he might die and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Blackwood's finger rests on the trigger. Not pulling, not yet, just resting there. Ready. 10 seconds, 20, 30, 36 seconds of absolute silence except for Ashford's breathing and that clock and the faint sound of trucks moving outside, because the war doesn't stop just because 2 men are deciding whether murder happens in this room. Then Blackwood speaks again, same quiet tone. Let me tell you what happens next, Major. If I pull this trigger, your brains decorate my map of Germany. I tell General Garrison you drew on me. Who does he believe, his most successful field commander, or a dead British officer who can't tell his version? The barrel presses harder, Ashford's eyes close, and the screen cuts to black. White letters appear the 36 seconds. Then smaller text, September 17th, 1944. Nancy, France, based on classified documents, declassified, 1995. Black screen holds 3 seconds. Then, 36 hours earlier, September 17th, 1944. The 3rd United States Army is a machine. Not metaphor, not figure of speech, an actual machine. Steel and gasoline and American engineering doing things military textbooks said couldn't be done. They broke out of Normandy on August 1st, 49 days ago, punched through German lines supposed to hold for months, raced across France faster than the German army retreated in 1940, 400 miles in 3 weeks. Moving so fast their supply lines couldn't keep up. Moving so fast, German commanders couldn't establish defensive positions. Paris fell August 25th because 3rd Army bypassed it. Didn't stop, didn't slow, just kept moving east like a steel fist aimed at Germany's throat. By September 5th, they'd crossed the Moselle River. By September 15th, they were within striking distance of the German border. Military analysts in Washington and London ran calculations. If Blackwood maintained this pace, if fuel kept flowing, if Germans kept collapsing, 3rd Army could reach the Rhine before October, push into Germany's industrial heartland before Christmas, collapse Nazi resistance, and end the war 6 months early. The rate of advance was unprecedented. The Germans couldn't stop it because they couldn't understand it. How does an entire army move 30 miles in a single day? How do supply columns keep pace with tanks that never stop? How does a commander coordinate 12 divisions across a 50-mile front while maintaining constant pressure? You'd have to ask the Germans, because they're the ones trying to stop it. September 14th, 1944, 2:40 in the afternoon. Oberst Friedrich Weber stands in a farmhouse 10 miles east of the Moselle. 53 years old, Wehrmacht, 30 years in the army, fought in the Great War, survived the trenches, earned an Iron Cross at Verdun, thought he understood war. He doesn't understand this. The map on the table shows colored pins, blue for German positions, red for American. 3 days ago, the red pins were 40 miles west. This morning, 20 miles west. Now 8 miles west. Weber stares at the map like it's lying. His aide Hauptmann Dieter Strauss stands beside the table. 31. Fresh orders from Berlin that make no sense. The Americans, Weber says slowly. German words carrying exhaustion that comes from fighting a war you know you're losing. Where are they now, exactly? Strauss checks his notes. Fresh intelligence from a scout team that radioed 20 minutes ago. Here, Herr Oberst. He points to Chateau Salins. Advance elements reach the town at 14 Harum. They're not stopping. They're refueling from trucks that followed them. They'll be moving again within the hour. Weber does the math. 8 miles in 6 hours. Not marching, not walking. Rolling in tanks and half-tracks that should need maintenance and rest. They don't rest. They don't stop. They just keep coming. How many, Weber asks. 2 battalions confirmed, maybe 3. Difficult to be certain because they're not advancing in formation. They're just flowing forward, like water finding channels. Weber lights a cigarette, hands shaking slightly, not from fear, from exhaustion. From knowing every defensive position he establishes will be overrun within 24 hours. What about the fuel situation, he asks, grasping at hope. Intelligence said the Americans are overextended. Their supply lines can't sustain this pace. Strauss hesitates. Sir, intelligence has been saying that for 2 weeks, but they keep coming. Weber nods slowly, exhales smoke. Prepare to evacuate this position. We fall back to the next line. Maybe there we can... The telephone rings. Both men freeze. The telephone shouldn't ring. The line should be cut. Strauss picks up the receiver, listens. His face goes white. Herr Oberst, the Americans, they're not at Chateau Salins. What? They're past it. They're 4 miles east. He checks his watch. They're 3 miles from this position. Weber stares at the map. 4 miles in 40 minutes. That's not possible. Armies don't teleport. But Third Army does. Evacuate, Weber says, grabbing papers from the table. Now, everything we can carry, burn the rest. They're out of the farmhouse in 8 minutes, heading east in a Kubelwagen that sounds held together with prayers. Behind them, smoke rises from burning documents. In front of them, somewhere in the autumn haze, Third Army keeps rolling forward. Weber thinks about a phrase one of his men used yesterday, describing Blackwood. Bewegt zu schnell. He moves too fast. Today, Weber would add, ist unstoppbar. He is unstoppable. September 15th, 1944, 8:00 in the morning. Third Army Headquarters, Nancy, France. The operations room hums with controlled chaos. Maps cover walls, pins mark positions, radios crackle. Officers move between stations. The machinery of command operating at peak efficiency. Colonel Vaughn stands at the main map table. 52, Chief of Staff. West Point, class of 1916. Served in the Great War. Thought he understood fast operations. Then he met Blackwood. Vaughn traces the advance with one finger. Following red arrows from Paris to Metz in 3 weeks. The arrows look like lightning bolts, sharp, aggressive, pointing always east. Sergeant Lieutenant says, fresh intelligence report in hand, latest fuel status. Vaughn takes the paper, reads. His expression changes. What's the number? 7,000 gallons delivered yesterday, sir, down from 32,000 the day before. Vaughn reads it again, checking if he misunderstood. He didn't. Check that. Confirm with logistics. There has to be an error. The lieutenant disappears. Vaughn stares at the map, at those red arrows, at momentum represented by colored pins and lines. Momentum is fragile. Momentum requires fuel. Fuel makes tanks move. Tanks moving breaks German armies. German armies broken ends the war. 7,000 gallons doesn't break German armies. 7,000 gallons barely keeps headquarters vehicles running. The lieutenant returns, face grim. Confirmed, sir. 7,000 gallons. Logistics says the fuel convoys were diverted. Priority allocation to 21st Army Group. 21st Army Group, British, commanded by Field Marshal Reginald Hawthorne, the man running Operation Market Garden. Vaughn's jaw tightens. Get me General Blackwood. Blackwood's office, 8:30 a.m. The general sits behind his desk, pearl-handled pistols hanging from a hook on the wall. Within reach. Always within reach. He's reading intelligence summaries. German order of battle, positions, strengths, weaknesses. The Germans are collapsing. Not fighting, not defending, collapsing, running, breaking. Third Army is fighting defeated men who haven't received the message yet. That's the window. That's the opportunity. Hit them now. Hit them hard. Don't let them consolidate. Just keep pushing until they stop running and start surrendering. Simple. Except it requires fuel. Vaughn enters. Doesn't knock. Doesn't need to. Sir, we have a problem. Blackwood looks up, reading Vaughn's expression. Understanding immediately this isn't small. Fuel. Fuel. Yesterday we received 7,000 gallons. We need 30,000 minimum. Today's allocation is pending, which means zero. Blackwood stands, walks to the wall map, studies the positions, the arrows, the momentum captured in colored pins. Diverted where? 21st Army Group, Market Garden launches tomorrow. Hawthorne got priority allocation. Blackwood's hands curl into fists. Market Garden, voice flat, controlled. The control that comes before explosion. The airborne operation into Holland, the one supposed to capture bridges and open a northern route into Germany. Yes, sir. The one intelligence says will fail because Dutch terrain doesn't support armored operations and German positions are stronger than Hawthorne thinks. Intelligence has concerns, yes, sir. Blackwood turns from the map, looks at Vaughn. So Hawthorne takes our fuel for an operation that's going to fail, while we sit here, 30 miles from the German border, with defeated German armies in front of us, and we sit here because we don't have gasoline. It's not a question. That's the situation, sir. Blackwood walks back to his desk, sits, steeples his fingers. Get me Schaeff. I want to talk to Garrison. Sir, I should tell you, the official explanation is logistics. Supply lines stretched, transportation capacity limited. They're saying it's not personal allocation. It's strategic priority. Bullshit, the word cuts air. Strategic priority is whoever's winning the war. Who's winning the war, Vaughn? We are, sir. And who's sitting in Nancy drinking coffee because they don't have fuel? We are, sir. Then explain to me how that's strategic priority. Vaughn can't, doesn't try. I'll get Schaeff on the line. He leaves. Blackwood stares at the map. All those red arrows pointing east. All that momentum. All those German armies collapsing. All of it stopping because someone in a headquarters 100 miles away decided an airborne operation into Holland matters more than finishing the war before Christmas. He thinks about soldiers. His soldiers. Third Army. The men in tanks that aren't moving, sitting on French roads, watching Germans regroup, watching opportunities evaporate. All because of fuel. Or more specifically, all because someone is stealing his fuel. September 16, 1942, 14 in the afternoon. A Jeep approaches 3rd Army headquarters. Olive drab, standard military vehicle. Nothing special except the passenger. Major Elliot Ashford, British Army, 34 years old. The kind of officer who looks born wearing a uniform. Straight spine, square shoulders. That particular British correctness Americans find either impressive or insufferable. He carries a leather-bound clipboard. Notes, orders. The bureaucracy of coalition warfare reduced to paper and leather. Official capacity liaison officer. Observe American operational procedures. Facilitate cooperation. Standard protocol for coalition war. Unofficial capacity. Well, we will get to that. The Jeep stops. Ashford steps out, adjusts his uniform, takes a breath. He's uncomfortable. Not afraid, uncomfortable. Because the orders in his clipboard aren't just observation. They're intelligence gathering. And intelligence gathering between allies is complicated. Legally fuzzy, ethically questionable. But necessary, Hawthorne said. Necessary to optimize resource allocation. Necessary to ensure the right operations get priority. Necessary to win the war efficiently. Ashford wanted to question those orders. Didn't. You don't question Field Marshal Hawthorne. You salute and execute. So here he is, at 3rd Army headquarters, about to observe American operations and send detailed reports back to British command. Reports that will be used to argue Americans don't need resources British operations need. He tells himself this is proper coordination. He tells himself this benefits the alliance. He tells himself a lot of things as he walks into that headquarters building. None of them are quite true. Vaughn conducts the briefing, standard protocol, show the liaison officer the operational maps, explain current positions, discuss objectives, share challenges. Vaughn is thorough, professional, treating Ashford like the allied officer he appears to be. Third Army, Vaughn explains, pointer touching the wall map, 12 divisions, currently positioned along a front from here to here. The pointer traces a line. Our objective is to maintain pressure on German forces, push them back across the border, prevent them from establishing defensive positions. Ashford takes notes, handwriting precise, methodical. What's your current rate of advance, he asks. Until 2 days ago, approximately 30 miles per day. Since then, zero. Zero quad, fuel situation. Vaughn's voice carefully neutral. Our allocation was reduced. Priority shifted to Market Garden. Ashford writes that down. I see. And your current fuel reserves? Approximately 800 gallons. Enough for defensive operations, not enough for offensive. How long can you sustain operations at current reserves? Vaughn looks at him. Something in that question. Something too specific, too interested. Defensive operations 4 days. Offensive operations less than 24 hours. Ashford writes it down. Every word, every number. And if you received additional fuel, how quickly could you resume offensive operations? Immediately. Immediately. We're not a defensive army, Major. We're built to attack. Give us fuel and we move. It's what we do. Ashford nods. Writing. The briefing continues 90 minutes. Vaughn shows him everything. Supply routes, maintenance schedules, division positions, unit strengths, everything a liaison officer needs. Everything a spy needs to undermine operations. Ashford asks good questions, intelligent questions, the kind that reveal operational capabilities and limitations, the kind that give you complete picture of what an army can and cannot do. The kind Field Marshal Hawthorne needs to argue Third Army doesn't actually need more fuel because their reserves are adequate for defensive operations and offensive operations aren't currently feasible anyway. When the briefing ends, Vaughn shakes Ashford's hand. If you need anything else, Major, my door's open. We're all on the same side here. Ashford smiles. Of course, Colonel, all on the same side. But as he leaves that briefing room, clipboard full of notes, he knows that's not entirely true, because he's about to send those notes to Hawthorne, and Hawthorne is about to use them against the Americans, which makes same side a complicated phrase. September 16th, 1944, 11:30 p.m. Ashford sits in his assigned quarters, small room. Desk, bed, window overlooking darkened compound. He's writing a report, condensing everything Vaughn told him into concise intelligence summary. His handwriting is careful, precise. Third Army operational assessment, current status, static defensive posture, fuel shortage limiting offensive operations. Reserve capacity, 800 gallons on hand. Additional 200 gallons in hidden reserves mentioned by logistics officer, not in official reports. Daily consumption, 22,000 gallons during offensive operations. 4,000 gallons defensive posture. Assessment. Current reserves adequate for defensive operations, 96 hours. Inadequate for renewed offensive without significant fuel allocation. Recommendation. Fuel reallocation to Market Garden will not compromise Third Army mission parameters. Their current operational tempo unsustainable regardless of allocation. Strategic priorities should favor operations with clear objectives and defined timelines. He reads it over. It's accurate. Technically. Every number correct. Every assessment defensible. It's also a death sentence for Third Army's fuel allocation, because Hawthorne will take this report, present it to Garrison, argue Americans are adequately supplied, argue additional fuel should go to Market Garden, argue using Third Army's own operational data against Third Army's interests. Ashford knows this, does it anyway, because his orders are clear, because he believes in the mission, because Market Garden could end the war, and that's more important than one American general's pride. He folds the report, seals it in an envelope marked classified, eyes only. Tomorrow morning he'll transmit it using British frequencies, encoded, secure, or so he thinks. September 17th, 1944, 11:45 p.m. The Signals Intelligence Room. Third Army Headquarters. Lieutenant Drake sits at her station, headphones on, monitoring radio traffic, German frequencies mostly, looking for intelligence, troop movements, orders, anything useful. But she's also monitoring something else. British frequencies, Blackwood's orders, given 3 weeks ago, quietly, privately. I don't trust Hawthorne, Blackwood said. He wants Market Garden to succeed more than he wants us to succeed. That makes him problematic. So I want you to monitor his communications. Everything going to and from 21st Army Group, especially anything originating from our headquarters. Drake thought that was paranoid. She doesn't think that anymore. Because for the past 18 hours, she's been tracking unusual transmission patterns. Encrypted burst transmission, originating from 3rd Army HQ, directed to 21st Army Group HQ, using British encryption protocols. First transmission, September 16th, 11:47 p.m. She noted it, unusual but not impossible. Could be legitimate traffic. Second transmission, September 17th, 2:30 a.m. Same pattern, same source, same destination. Now she's watching for a third. And at 11:52 p.m. on September 17th it happens. Her equipment picks up the burst. Encrypted, British protocol, originating from officers' quarters. Major Ashford's quarters specifically. She records it, tags it, begins the decryption process. British encryption isn't American encryption. She shouldn't have the keys, shouldn't be able to decode Allied transmissions. She has them anyway. Don't ask how. Signals intelligence is about relationships, about unofficial favors, about American crypto specialists who know British crypto specialists, who maybe share protocols that maybe aren't supposed to be shared, but get shared anyway because allies need to communicate. The decryption takes time. British protocols are good, complex, layered. But Drake is better. At 3:42 a.m. on September 18th, the decryption completes. She reads the message, reads it again. Her hands start shaking. Not from fear, from fury, because she's looking at Major Ashford's intelligence report. Every word, every number, every assessment Vaughn shared in that briefing, all of it formatted into neat summary, all of it marked classified, all of it being sent to Field Marshal Hawthorne, all of it being used to justify stealing Third Army's fuel. Drake sits back in her chair, stares at the decoded message on her screen, thinks about soldiers, American soldiers, sitting in tanks that don't have fuel, watching Germans regroup, watching opportunities disappear, all because some British major is feeding their operational intelligence to his command. She looks at the clock, 3:47 a.m. Vaughn needs to see this, Blackwood needs to see this, and when Blackwood sees this, someone is going to die. 4:15 a.m., September 18th, Vaughn's quarters. The knock on the door pulls him from shallow sleep, the kind of sleep you get during wartime. Never deep, always ready to wake, always ready for crisis. He opens the door. Drake stands there, still in uniform, hasn't slept, holding printouts. "Sir, you need to see this, now." Her tone tells him everything. This isn't routine, this is emergency. They go to his office. She spreads the printouts on his desk, the intercepted transmissions, the decrypted message, Ashford's intelligence report. Vaughn reads, then reads again, then a third time because he can't quite believe what he's seeing. This is from Major Ashford. "Yes, sir. Transmitted at 23:52 last night on British frequencies using their encryption protocols. He's reporting our operational status to Hawthorne." "Yes, sir. Including classified information about our fuel reserves, our consumption rates, our capabilities." "Yes, sir." Vaughn sets the papers down, carefully, like they might explode. "And this isn't the first transmission. Third one, sir, I have the timestamps. September 16th at 23:47, September 17th at 2:30, and this is one last night. 3 reports in 36 hours. "Yes, sir." Vaughn thinks about the briefing he gave Ashford, how thorough he was, how much he shared, because you're supposed to share with liaison officers. You're supposed to cooperate. You're supposed to trust your allies, except your allies are apparently stealing your operational intelligence and using it to justify stealing your fuel. "Does anyone else know about this?" "No, sir, just me. But, sir." Drake hesitates. "This explains everything, the fuel allocation. Hawthorne's been arguing to Garrison that we don't need additional fuel because our reserves are adequate. He's been using our own data against us, data that Ashford is providing." Vaughn nods slowly, the pieces fitting together, the whole ugly picture becoming clear. "Wake the general," he says quietly. "Sir, it's 4:15 in the morning. I don't care if it's midnight on Christmas. Wake him, now." 4:35 a.m., Blackwood's quarters. The knock wakes him. He's a light sleeper, has been since 1917, since learning deep sleep gets you killed. Enter. Vaughn comes in, face grim, holding papers. Sir, I'm sorry to wake you, but you need to see this immediately. Blackwood sits up, takes the papers, starts reading. His expression doesn't change. Not at first. He reads the intercepted transmission, the decoded message, Ashford's intelligence report. Then he sets it down. Still no expression, just those Arctic eyes fixed on some point across the room. This is confirmed, voice quiet, controlled. Yes, sir. Lieutenant Drake intercepted and decoded it. 3 transmissions total over 36 hours. And this Major Ashford, the British liaison officer, he's reporting our operational status to Hawthorne. Yes, sir. Using classified information I authorized you to share with him because he's supposed to be our ally. Yes, sir. Blackwood stands, walks to his footlocker, opens it, takes out both pistols. The ivory-handled Colts everyone knows. That became his signature, his trademark. He checks both. Fully loaded, 7 rounds each. Vaughn watches, starting to understand what's about to happen. Sir, he says carefully, what are you planning? Blackwood straps on his gun belt, holsters the pistols. Deliberate, methodical. I'm going to have a conversation with Major Ashford. Sir, and someone should make sure that conversation is witnessed, because what I'm about to do needs to be documented. Sir, you can't. Blackwood turns. Those eyes, ice cold, absolutely focused. What colonel can't confront a spy, can't defend my command against intelligence operations being run by our supposed allies, can't stop someone from stealing information that's getting American soldiers killed. Vaughn has no answer to that, because Blackwood is right, and Blackwood is terrifying. Get Ashford to my office, Blackwood says. Now, I want him standing in front of my desk in 15 minutes, and I want you and Drake there as witnesses. Sir, if you're planning to, I'm not planning anything. I'm going to have a conversation about espionage, about betrayal, about what happens when you spy on allies, that's all. His hand rests on one of those pearl grips. That's all. Vaughn salutes, leaves. Blackwood stands alone in his quarters, thinking about that British officer sleeping peacefully in guest quarters 100 yards away, thinking about how that peaceful sleep is about to end. 6:30 a.m. Ashford wakes to pounding on his door. Not knocking, pounding. He opens it. A sergeant stands there, face pale, expression tense. Major Ashford, General Blackwood requests your presence immediately. Ashford blinks, still half asleep. Now, it's barely dawn. Sir, the general said immediately, as in right now. Something in the sergeant's voice. Something wrong. Ashford pulls on his uniform quickly. The walk to headquarters feels longer than usual. The sergeant doesn't speak, just leads. Shoulders tight, like he's escorting a prisoner. They reach the headquarters building, up the stairs, down the corridor, to Blackwood's office. The sergeant knocks. Enter, says Blackwood's voice from inside. The sergeant opens the door, steps aside. Ashford walks in and freezes, because Blackwood is standing behind his desk, hands resting on those pearl grips, eyes locked on Ashford with intensity that makes every instinct scream danger. Vaughn stands near the door, expression unreadable. Drake stands beside him, holding papers. Ashford stops moving. Something is very, very wrong. Come in, Major, Blackwood says, voice quiet, almost gentle. Close the door. What we're about to discuss needs to remain in this room. Ashford closes the door, heart hammering. Unless, Blackwood continues, same quiet tone, you want the entire Allied command structure to learn that British forces are conducting espionage operations against their own coalition partners. The blood drains from Ashford's face. He knows. Somehow, impossibly, Blackwood knows. And Ashford suddenly understands why those pistols are within reach, and why the next few minutes might determine whether he lives or dies. September 19th, 1944, 6:53 in the morning. The door closes behind Major Ashford with a sound like a coffin lid. Blackwood doesn't move, doesn't blink, just stands there behind his desk, looking at Ashford the way a wolf looks at wounded prey. Calculating, patient, certain. The room is small, office furniture, desk, chairs, maps on walls, window showing gray dawn. Normal, mundane. The kind of space where 1,000 routine briefings happen. Except this isn't routine. And what happens in the next 7 minutes will determine whether murder occurs. Ashford's throat is dry. He tries to swallow. Can't. His uniform suddenly feels too tight, the air too thin, every instinct screaming immediate danger. Blackwood takes one hand off a pistol grip, picks up a piece of paper from his desk, slides it across the wooden surface toward Ashford. The paper makes a whisper sound, soft, innocent. Read it, Blackwood says, voice conversational. The tone you'd use to discuss weather or anything except the thing that tone is actually discussing. Ashford steps forward, legs unsteady, picks up the paper. His hands shake as he reads. He recognizes the words immediately, because they're his words, his intelligence report, the one he transmitted 26 hours ago, the one supposed to be encrypted. Secure, the one that definitely wasn't supposed to end up in an American general's hands. The paper trembles. Ashford's fingers can't hold it steady. Read it aloud, Blackwood says, still that quiet tone. I want everyone in this room to hear you read your own intelligence assessment of American operational capabilities. Ashford's mouth opens. No sound comes out. Read it, Major. Ashford tries. Voice comes out as whisper. Third Army Operational Assessment. Current status static, defensive posture due to fuel shortage. Louder, Blackwood interrupts. Colonel Vaughn can't hear you, neither can Lieutenant Drake. And they need to hear this. They need to hear a British liaison officer reporting classified American operational intelligence to British command. Ashford clears his throat. Tries again. Louder. Third Army Operational Assessment. Current status, static defensive posture. Fuel shortage limiting offensive operations. Reserve capacity 800 gallons on hand. Additional 200 gallons in hidden reserves. His voice cracks. Keep reading. Daily consumption 22,000 gallons during offensive operations. 4,000 gallons defensive posture. Assessment, current reserves adequate for defensive operations 96 hours. Inadequate for renewed offensive without significant fuel allocation. He stops, can't continue. The recommendation, Major. Read the recommendation. Ashford's hands shake harder. Recommendation, fuel reallocation to Market Garden will not compromise Third Army mission parameters. Silence fills the room. Heavy, suffocating. Blackwood lets it stretch. 5 seconds, 10, 20. Then he speaks. I authorized Colonel Vaughn to brief you. Authorized him to share operational information because you're a liaison officer. Because we're allies. Because coalition warfare requires transparency. His right hand moves back to the pistol grip. But you're not a liaison officer, are you, Major? Ashford tries to speak. Sir, I was following orders to provide situation reports. Following orders. Blackwood's voice cuts like a knife. That's what you're going with. Following orders. That's the excuse every spy uses, every traitor claims. Following orders. He draws the pistol. Right hand, smooth, practiced. The ivory handle catches dawn light. Ashford steps back, hits the door behind him. Nowhere to go. Blackwood doesn't point the weapon yet, just holds it, casual, like it weighs nothing. Let me explain what your orders accomplished, Major. He sets the pistol on his desk, barrel pointed toward Ashford, not threatening, just there, present, possible. My tanks are sitting empty on French roads, not because we're out of fuel, not because there's a shortage, but because someone convinced Garrison that I don't need fuel. Someone presented detailed intelligence showing my reserves are adequate, that my requirements are exaggerated, that resources should go elsewhere. His voice remains quiet, controlled. Somehow that makes it worse. That someone is Hawthorne, and Hawthorne's intelligence came from you, from these reports. 3 of them in 36 hours, each more detailed than the last, each used to justify stealing my fuel allocation. He walks around the desk, slow, deliberate. While my tanks sit empty, Germans are regrouping, establishing defensive positions, fortifying lines we could have overrun. American soldiers are vulnerable, exposed, because momentum stopped. And momentum stopped because Hawthorne stole our fuel using intelligence you provided. Blackwood stops 3 feet from Ashford. So when you say you were following orders, when you claim this is normal liaison activity, let me be very clear about what you actually did. He picks up the pistol from his desk, holds it loosely. You committed espionage. You stole classified operational intelligence. You transmitted it to a foreign command using encrypted channels. And that intelligence is being weaponized against American interests, against American soldiers, against Americans who might die because Germans had time to prepare defenses. The pistol rises, slowly. Now, give me one reason, one single reason why I shouldn't treat you exactly like any enemy spy caught stealing military secrets. Ashford's back presses against the door, eyes fixed on that barrel. Sir, he manages, voice shaking. I'm a British officer. We're allies. The same side. Yeah. The same side. Blackwood's laugh is bitter, sharp. Is that what you call it when British officers spy on American headquarters? When British commanders steal American resources? When British operations get priority over American success? He steps closer, 2 feet away now. Here's what same side means to me, Major. Same side means Germans. Same side means we both shoot at Germans. But you weren't shooting at Germans. You were gathering intelligence on Americans to help British operations at American expense. The pistol barrel rises to horizontal, pointing at Ashford's chest. That's not same side. That's competition. That's espionage. That's betrayal wrapped in coalition bureaucracy. Ashford's breathing comes fast, shallow, panic breathing. Sir, please. Hawthorne believes Market Garden is the best strategy. He needs accurate information to make his case. I was just providing classified intelligence. Blackwood interrupts. Without authorization, using encrypted channels. That's called spying, Major. Call it liaison work if it helps you sleep. Call it coordination. Call it whatever you want. But when a foreign officer steals classified data and transmits it secretly, there's only one word that matters. He steps closer, 18 inches away. Spy. The pistol rises, slowly, tracking from chest to throat to face. Blackwood's hand is absolutely steady. No tremor, no shake, just smooth, controlled, certain. He presses the barrel against Ashford's forehead, right between his eyes, where pale skin meets perfect hairline. The metal is cold. Ashford can feel it. The circle of pressure. The promise of what comes next if that finger moves half an inch. The room becomes silent. Vaughn and Drake frozen near the door, not moving, not breathing, watching something that shouldn't be happening. The clock on the wall ticks, loud, intrusive, marking seconds that feel infinite. Ashford's eyes close. Tears leak from corners, not from pain, from fear, from understanding he might actually die, and there's nothing he can do. Blackwood leans closer, voice a whisper now, just for Ashford. Give me one reason why I shouldn't do this. One reason why I shouldn't pull this trigger and tell Garrison you drew on me. Who is Garrison wanting to believe, his most successful commander, or a dead British spy? Ashford's mouth moves. No sound comes out. I can justify this, Blackwood continues. Same whisper. Enemy agent, caught in the act, reached for a weapon. I defended myself. Simple. Clean. Garrison might be suspicious, but he can't prove otherwise. And I'm too valuable to lose over one dead British major. The barrel presses harder. So give me a reason, Major. Give me one goddamn reason not to end you right now. The clock ticks. 5 seconds, 10, 15, 20. Ashford's breathing comes in gasps, rapid, desperate. 25 seconds. 30. Vaughn shifts near the door, half a step forward, hand moving toward his sidearm, not sure if he should stop this or let it happen. 35 seconds. 36. Then Blackwood's hand moves. The pistol lowers, slowly, deliberately, back down from forehead to horizontal to desk. He steps back, 2 feet, 3, sets the pistol on his desk, next to the decoded transmission. His voice when he speaks is flat, empty. Get out. Ashford doesn't move. Can't move. Legs won't work. Get out of my headquarters. Get out of France. Get back to Hawthorne. And deliver a message. Blackwood's eyes lock on Ashford one final time. Tell him, if I ever catch another British liaison officer conducting intelligence operations against American units, I won't stop at threats. I will pull the trigger. I will deal with diplomatic consequences afterward. And I will sleep just fine knowing I executed a spy. His hand rests on the pistol grip again. Now get the hell out before I change my mind. Ashford's legs suddenly work. He turns, fumbles with the door handle, gets it open, runs, not walks, not exits professionally, runs down the corridor, down the stairs, out of the building, running like death is chasing him. Because for 36 seconds, death was. The office is silent after Ashford leaves. Blackwood stands behind his desk, staring at nothing, right hand still resting on that pearl grip. Vaughn closes the door, slowly, carefully. "Sir," he says quietly, were you actually going to shoot him?" Blackwood doesn't answer immediately, just stands there, breathing, processing. Finally, he speaks. "I don't know." 3 words. Honest. Terrifying. I had my finger on the trigger. I was calculating angles, where the bullet would go, how to position the body, what to say to Garrison. I was thinking through the logistics of committing murder and making it look justified. He picks up the pistol, ejects the magazine, clears the chamber, sets both on his desk separately. "So yes, Colonel, I think I might have actually shot him." Drake speaks for the first time. "Sir, he's British, an Allied officer. If you'd killed him—" "If I'd killed him," Blackwood interrupts, "Hawthorne would have complained. Churchill would have been outraged. Garrison would have been forced to investigate. And the whole ugly truth would have come out. That British forces are running intelligence operations against American units. That our allies are spying on us." He sits down, suddenly tired. "Which is exactly why I didn't shoot him. Not because it's wrong, not because he's British, but because the truth coming out would destroy the coalition. Would give Germans propaganda, would make Garrison's job impossible." Vaughn nods slowly, understanding. "So we bury it." "We bury it." Ashford runs back to Hawthorne. Hawthorne complains to Garrison. Garrison investigates quietly. Changes get made. Everyone pretends it never happened. Blackwood looks at the decoded transmission on his desk. "But it did happen. In a man. And Hawthorne knows I know, and that changes everything." 10:15 a.m., September 19th, 21st Army Group Headquarters, Eindhoven, Holland. Ashford stumbles off a transport plane. He hasn't slept, hasn't eaten, hasn't stopped shaking since leaving 3rd Army Headquarters 4 hours ago. A staff car takes him directly to Field Marshal Hawthorne's office. Hawthorne is 57, distinguished. Gray hair, the kind of British officer who looks born to command. Perfectly pressed uniform. Swagger stick, the embodiment of military professionalism. He looks up when Ashford enters, takes one look at the major's pale face, trembling hands, disheveled uniform. "Good God, Ashford, what happened?" Ashford tries to speak, can't, sits down without being invited, puts his head in his hands. Hawthorne's expression shifts from concern to alarm. "Major, report, now." Ashford lifts his head, eyes red, voice hoarse. "Blackwood, sir, he knows. He intercepted my transmissions, decoded them. He knows I was reporting to you." Hawthorne goes very still. "He confronted you. He held a pistol to my head, sir, for 36 seconds. I thought he was going to kill me. I genuinely believed I was about to die." Hawthorne stands, slowly, fury building behind professional features. "He threatened to execute you." "It wasn't a threat, sir. It was calculation. He was deciding whether killing me was worth diplomatic consequences. And for 36 seconds, I think he was leaning toward yes." Hawthorne's face flushes red. "This is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. He threatened a British officer during wartime while we're supposed to be allies." He picks up his telephone. "Get me General Garrison. Priority. I don't care if he's in a meeting. This is urgent." Ashford watches. Part of him relieved that Hawthorne is outraged. Part of him wondering if outrage is the right response. Because technically, legally, what Ashford was doing, what Hawthorne ordered him to do, was espionage. But you don't say that to a field marshal. 2:30 p.m., September 19th, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Versailles, France. General Theodore Garrison sits at his desk, 54 years old, Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in Europe. The man who has to make British and American commanders cooperate despite national pride, competing strategies, and personal animosity. The man whose job just became significantly harder. His aide enters. "Sir Field Marshal Hawthorne on the secure line. He says it's urgent." Garrison picks up the phone. "Field Marshal, what can I do for you?" Hawthorne's voice comes through, clipped, furious. "General, I need to lodge a formal complaint against Blackwood for conduct unbecoming an officer and threatening British personnel." Garrison closes his eyes, already knowing this won't end well. "What happened?" "Blackwood held a pistol to Major Ashford's head, threatened to execute him, called him a spy, accused him of espionage. This is completely unacceptable behavior between Allied commands." "And why?" Garrison asked carefully. "Did Blackwood do this?" Slight pause on Hawthorne's end. "There was a misunderstanding. About liaison reports. Ashford was providing operational assessments as part of his duties, and Blackwood apparently took exception. Field Marshal. Garrison's voice cuts through. I need the full story. What kind of operational assessment is? Another pause. Longer. Third Army's fuel status, consumption rates, reserve capacity, and information necessary for coordinating resource allocation. Necessary for Market Garden. Yes, to demonstrate Market Garden deserved priority allocation given Third Army's adequate reserves. Garrison sits back in his chair. Field Marshal, I'm going to ask you a direct question. And I need an honest answer. Was Major Ashford transmitting classified operational intelligence about American forces to British command using encrypted channels? Silence on the line. Field Marshal. He was providing liaison reports through appropriate channels. Encrypted channels? Yes. Without Blackwood's knowledge or authorization, liaison officers report to their commands. That's standard. Was this authorized by me, by Schaeff, by anyone except you? Silence again. Garrison rubs his temples. Field Marshal, I'm going to conduct an investigation, a quiet investigation, and I strongly suggest you prepare for uncomfortable questions about British intelligence operations against American forces. Are you saying you won't discipline Blackwood? I'm saying, Garrison replies carefully, that before I discipline anyone, I need to understand exactly what happened. And right now, what I'm understanding is that you placed an intelligence officer in American headquarters disguised as a liaison officer. And he was caught, and Blackwood reacted poorly. Reacted poorly, he threatened to commit murder. And you were conducting espionage against your own allies. Garrison's voice rises. Do you understand how this looks? Do you understand what would happen if this became public? Hawthorne's voice goes cold. I understand that American commanders are undisciplined and unreliable coalition partners. And I understand, Garrison replies, same cold tone, that British commanders are so focused on their own operations, they are willing to undermine Allied success. Both men breathe hard into their phones. Finally, Garrison speaks. Quieter now. Field Marshal, I'm going to investigate. You're going to cooperate. And we're both going to pray this doesn't explode into something that destroys the coalition. Are we clear, Crystal, Hawthorne says, and hangs up. Garrison sets the phone down, stares at it for a long moment, then picks it up again. Get me my intelligence staff and pull every file on Operation Market Garden. I want to see the original assessments. All of them. September 20th, 1944, 11:00 a.m. Garrison's office, alone. He pulls the classified intelligence file on Market Garden, the one his staff prepared, the one that's been sitting on his desk for 3 weeks. He reads it carefully now, not skimming, actually reading. Dutch terrain assessment, heavy polder land, poor drainage, limited hard surface roads, unsuitable for armored operations. German force assessment, 2 SS Panzer Corps confirmed in Arnhem area, refitting but combat capable, significantly stronger than Field Marshal Hawthorne's estimates suggest. Bridge capture probability. High risk, airborne forces will be isolated. Ground relief force must advance 60 miles through contested territory in 48 hours. Historical success rate for such operations 12%. Garrison sets the file down, picks up Hawthorne's most recent resource request, the one citing Ashford's intelligence, the one arguing Market Garden deserved fuel priority. The justification was clear. Third Army adequately supplied for defensive operations. Market Garden offers superior strategic opportunity. Northern route into Germany provides faster path to victory. Except the intelligence file says Market Garden has 12% chance of success. And Hawthorne knew that, or should have known that. Garrison picks up his phone. Get me the intelligence officer who prepared the Market Garden assessment. The officer arrives in 10 minutes. Captain? Young? Nervous. Sir, this Market Garden file, when did you deliver it to Hawthorne's staff? August 28th, sir, 6 weeks before the operation. And their response? The captain hesitates. Sir, they disagreed with our terrain assessment, said our force estimates were too pessimistic. They proceeded with planning based on their own intelligence. Their own intelligence that said it would work. Yes, sir. Garrison dismisses him, sits alone with the file, understanding settling like cold water. Hawthorne didn't just steal fuel based on operational need. He stole fuel based on bad intelligence that contradicted Schaiff's assessments. He justified theft with wishful thinking and used Ashford's spy reports to make the case sound credible. The phone rings. Garrison answers. Sir Field Marshal Hawthorne calling again. About Blackwood. Tell him I'm unavailable, Garrison says quietly, indefinitely. He hangs up, stares at the file. Blackwood was right about everything, and Garrison is about to bury it to preserve coalition unity. 5:45 p.m., September 19th, 3rd Army Headquarters, Nancy. Blackwood takes the call in his office. Alone. General Garrison? Marcus? Garrison's voice is tired. I just got off the phone with Hawthorne. He's filed a formal complaint, says you threatened to execute one of his liaison officers. I did. Jesus Christ, Marcus. He was spying on us, Theodore, transmitting classified intelligence to British command. 3 separate reports in 36 hours, using that intelligence to justify stealing our fuel allocation. Garrison sighs, long, heavy. I know. Blackwood sits up straighter. You know, I'm investigating, and Marcus, it's worse than you think. Ashford wasn't alone. Hawthorne placed liaison officers in multiple American units. They were all sending similar reports, all being used to justify British resource priority. Blackwood's hands curl into fists. How many? 5 that I've confirmed so far. Maybe more. 5. 5 British spies in American headquarters. Liaison officers conducting unauthorized intelligence gathering. Garrison corrects. Semantics matter here. Bullshit, they're spies. They're British officers following orders from a British field marshal who believed he was optimizing coalition resource allocation. Blackwood laughs, bitter, harsh. Is that what we're calling it, optimization? Marcus, Garrison's voice hardens. I need you to understand something. If this becomes public, the coalition fractures. Germans get propaganda. Churchill and Roosevelt have a crisis. The war effort suffers, so we're going to handle this quietly. Handle it how? I'm removing all British liaison officers from American units, immediately, replacing them with American liaisons at British headquarters with strict orders not to gather intelligence. And I'm restructuring supply allocation to go through SHAFE directly. Blackwood processes this, and Hawthorne gets a private message. If he wants me to discipline you for threatening Ashford, I have to simultaneously discipline him for running intelligence operations. I don't think he wants that investigation public. So nobody gets punished. Nobody gets punished publicly. Privately, Hawthorne knows I know. You know he knows you know. Trust is broken, relationship poisoned. But we maintain the fiction that we're all still friends. Blackwood stares at his wall map, at those red arrows, at momentum that stopped because of fuel, because of speeds, because of allies who competed instead of cooperated. Theodore, Market Garden is going to fail. You know that, right? The intelligence is clear. Dutch terrain doesn't support it. German positions are stronger than Hawthorne thinks. He's going to lose. I know. And he stole our fuel for an operation that's going to fail. I know. So when it fails, when those British paratroopers get slaughtered, when that northern route collapses, remember it could have been avoided. Remember we could have ended this war by Christmas if Hawthorne hadn't been so focused on British glory that he sabotaged American success. Garrison's voice is quiet when he responds. I'll remember, Marcus. But we still need to work together. We still need the coalition. So we bury this, we move forward, and we pray nobody else finds out. Fine, Blackwood's voice flat. But Theodore, one more thing. What? I meant it. If I catch another British officer spying on my command, I will shoot them. I won't threaten. I won't hesitate. I will pull the trigger and deal with you afterward. Silence on the line. Marcus, I mean it. 36 seconds I held that gun to Ashford's head. 36 seconds of deciding whether murder was justified. And you know what conclusion I reached? What? It was justified. The only reason I didn't do it was politics. Coalition unity. Not wanting to hand Germans propaganda. But morally, legally, that man committed espionage in wartime. Execution would have been appropriate. Garrison breathes into the phone. Are you telling me you're going to start executing Allied officers? I'm telling you that trust is broken. And without trust, we're not allies. We're just 2 armies fighting the same enemy. And if British officers treat my headquarters like enemy territory, I'll treat them like enemy agents. Marcus, I can't let you. You'll do what you have to do, Theodore. And I'll do what I have to do, but don't ask me to pretend this didn't happen. Don't ask me to shake Hawthorne's hand and pretend we're friends. Because we're not. Not anymore. He hangs up, sits in his office alone, thinking about those 36 seconds, how close he came, how easy it would have been, 1 pound of pressure on a trigger, 1 British major dead, One problem solved. Except it wouldn't have solved anything, would have created worse problems. But God, for 36 seconds. It felt like the right answer. September 21st, 1944, 10:00 a.m. A private message arrives at Hawthorne's headquarters, eyes only. From Garrison. Hawthorne reads it alone in his office. Priority, classified Field Marshal Hawthorne. Regarding your complaint against General Blackwood for threatening Major Ashford, I have completed my investigation. The findings are as follows. Major Ashford transmitted classified operational intelligence about American forces to British Command using encrypted channels without authorization from SHAEF or Third Army Command. Similar patterns detected from 4 other British liaison officers in American units. Additionally, my intelligence staff advised against Market Garden on August 28th. Assessment cited unsuitable terrain, stronger German forces than estimated, and 12% probability of success. This assessment was rejected by your staff in favor of more optimistic British intelligence. If you wish me to discipline General Blackwood for threatening Major Ashford, I will simultaneously need to discipline you for 1, using liaison officers as intelligence assets to undermine Allied operational decisions, and 2, pursuing an operation contrary to SHAEF intelligence assessments using misappropriated fuel resources. I do not believe either of us wants that investigation to become public record. Therefore, all British liaison officers removed from American units immediately. American liaison officers assigned to British units with explicit orders. No intelligence gathering. All supply allocations decided at SHAEF level based on operational requirements, not based on liaison assessments. This matter is closed. It will not be discussed publicly. Violations of this agreement will result in immediate relief of command. General Theodore Garrison. Supreme Commander SHAEF Hawthorne reads it 3 times. Each time his anger builds. Each time his humiliation deepens. Because Garrison is right. If this becomes public, British intelligence operations against Americans becomes scandal. Churchill gets questions. Parliament gets involved. The Americans get vindication. Hawthorne can't allow that. So he swallows his fury, accepts the solution, and writes a letter to Blackwood that isn't quite an apology, but acknowledges that perhaps liaison protocols need clarification and that operational transparency should benefit the overall alliance, and that he looks forward to continued cooperation. The letter is polite, professional, completely insincere. Blackwood's response arrives 2 days later. 3 sentences. Field Marshal, your liaison officer was a spy. Your transparency was theft. Your letter suggests you still don't understand I was seconds from actually shooting him. General Marcus Blackwood. No signature block, no formality, just 3 sentences of pure contempt. Hawthorne crumples the letter, throws it away, and understands that whatever working relationship existed between British and American commands is dead. Poisoned by 36 seconds in a room in Nancy, by a pistol pressed against a forehead, by trust shattered beyond repair. September 25th, 1944. Operation Market Garden collapses. British paratroopers trapped at Arnhem. Germans counterattack. The bridge is lost. The northern route fails. Hawthorne's bold strategy, his justification for stealing Third Army's fuel, his argument that British operations deserve priority, all of it proven wrong in 6 days of brutal fighting. 14,589 British and Polish casualties. For 1 bridge. For 1 operation. For 1 field marshal's vision of glory. All that stolen fuel. All that diverted allocation. All that sabotaged American momentum. For nothing. Third Army remains fuel-starved through October. Through November, unable to exploit opportunities, unable to maintain pressure, watching Germans consolidate, watching defensive lines strengthen, all because Hawthorne thought British glory mattered more than Allied victory. And when December comes, when Germans launch their surprise offensive in the Ardennes, when American soldiers die by thousands in the snow, many will wonder if Third Army had been properly supplied in September, if Blackwood had maintained momentum, if 36 hours and 36 seconds hadn't poisoned the alliance. Could the Battle of the Bulge have been prevented? Could those soldiers be alive? Could the war have ended sooner? The questions linger. Because 36 seconds of confrontation led to months of consequences. Because trust broken can't be repaired. Because allies who spy on each other aren't really allies at all. They're just enemies with a common foe. October 1944. The fuel situation does not improve. Third Army remains on minimum allocation, enough to hold positions, not enough to attack, not enough to exploit opportunities that keep appearing as German forces try to reorganize. Try to establish coherent defense lines, try to stop the bleeding. The opportunities appear and disappear because tanks need fuel to move, and Third Army doesn't have fuel. October 12th, forward scouts report German 19th Division in retreat, disorganized, vulnerable, perfect target for armored assault. Third Army can't attack, no fuel for sustained operations. The Germans escape, regroup, return to the line stronger. October 23rd, intelligence indicates German supply depot near Saarbrücken, lightly defended, contains ammunition and food fuel, everything Third Army needs. Third Army can't reach it. No fuel for 50-mile advance. The depot gets reinforced. Opportunity lost. November 8th, German commander requests ceasefire to evacuate wounded from contested sector. Rare moment of disorganization. Rare moment of weakness. Third Army can't exploit it. No fuel to maneuver. The Germans use the ceasefire to strengthen positions. Every opportunity, every opening, every moment when aggressive action could shorten the war. Wasted because fuel goes elsewhere, because priorities favor other operations, because the spy incident in September poisoned relationships and coordination failed and soldiers died. Blackwood documents it all, in letters to his wife, in notes to his staff, in reports that get filed and forgotten. One letter, November 15th, personal, never sent. We're winning this war in spite of our allies. The Germans fight us, the British undermine us, and somewhere in between, American soldiers do the actual work of defeating fascism, while everyone else plays politics with their lives. The letter stays in his desk drawer, but the sentiment doesn't change. November 1944, the Germans use the delays well. They're not stupid. They understand Third Army stopped. Understand the unstoppable machine suddenly became stoppable. Understand momentum shifted. They reinforce, consolidate, establish defensive lines that should have been overrun in September, but now stand strong in November. They move reserves, fresh divisions from the interior. Armor supposed to defend Berlin gets repositioned to the Western Front because the Western Front isn't collapsing anymore. They prepare, plan, calculate. And in the Ardennes Forest, that heavily wooded region where Belgium meets Luxembourg meets Germany, where terrain favors defense, where Americans are stretched thin, where nobody expects an attack because attacking through the Ardennes is crazy. They prepare something big, something that will kill thousands. Because Third Army isn't where it should be, isn't positioned to respond quickly, isn't the constant threat forcing Germans to defend everywhere simultaneously. All because of fuel, all because of September, all because 36 seconds of confrontation led to months of mistrust. December 16th, 1944, 5:30 a.m. The Ardennes forest erupts, 200,000 German troops, nearly 900 tanks, 3 armies, hitting a 50-mile section of American line held by 4 divisions. The attack is massive, coordinated, surprise absolute. Americans fall back, not running, fighting, but outnumbered 5-1 in some sectors. Overwhelmed by sheer weight of German assault, within 24 hours, Germans advanced 20 miles. Within 48 hours, they threaten the vital road junction at Bastogne. If Bastogne falls, the German breakthrough succeeds. If it succeeds, Allied armies get split, supply lines cut. The war extends into 1946. The situation is desperate. December 18th, 1944, 4:00 p.m. Emergency meeting. SHAEF headquarters. Garrison stands at a map showing the German breakthrough, the bulge in American lines that gives this battle its name. Hawthorne is there, in person. First time he and Blackwood have been in the same room since September. They don't look at each other. Garrison points to Bastogne. The Germans are surrounding it. We have 1 airborne division there, the 101st. They're dug in, but they can't hold forever. We need relief, fast. He turns to Blackwood. Marcus, Third Army is here. His finger touches the map 100 miles south of Bastogne. I need you to disengage from your current positions. Pivot 90 degrees north. Move 100 miles through winter weather and attack the German southern flank within 72 hours. The room is silent. Everyone understands what Garrison just asked. Move an entire army, 12 divisions, 200,000 men, thousands of vehicles, through snow, through ice, through some of the worst terrain in Europe, while maintaining combat readiness. In 72 hours, it's impossible. Blackwood looks at the map, calculating, computing, that brilliant tactical mind running scenarios at speed. 48 hours, he says. Garrison blinks. What? 48 hours, not 72. I can have lead elements attacking the German flank in 48 hours. Full army in position within 60. Hawthorne speaks for the first time, a voice skeptical. That's impossible. You can't move that fast in winter, through that terrain, while maintaining cohesion. Blackwood finally looks at him, eyes cold, contemptuous. Watch me. December 19th, December 21st. Third Army moves, not marching, not advancing, pivoting, like a steel door swinging on hinges. 200,000 men changing direction 90 degrees. In winter, in snow, in weather that makes every road a challenge and every hillside a potential disaster. They move anyway, because this is what Third Army does. Because momentum and aggression and speed aren't just tactics, they're identity. The Germans don't believe it's happening. Their intelligence reports Third Army 100 miles south. No way they can disengage. No way they can move that fast. The intelligence is wrong. By December 22nd, Third Army's lead elements are 40 miles from Bastogne. By December 23rd, 15 miles away. By December 26th, they punch through German lines and relieve the 101st Airborne. 48 hours, exactly as Blackwood promised. The German offensive stalls, then stops, then collapses as Americans counterattack from multiple directions. Third Army saves Bastogne, saves the breakthrough, possibly saves the war. January 1945. The Battle of the Bulge is over. Official casualties: 19,000 Americans killed, 47,000 wounded, 15,000 captured, 81,000 American casualties. For one German offensive, one surprise attack, one breakthrough that shouldn't have been possible. Blackwood sits in his office, looking at casualty lists, names, units, dates of death. Vaughn enters quietly. Sir, the historians are already calling it your finest moment, the pivot, the relief of Bastogne. They're saying it was the most brilliant maneuver of the war. Blackwood doesn't look up from the casualty list. They're wrong. Sir, the most brilliant maneuver would have been preventing this, being positioned in September and October where we should have been, maintaining pressure so Germans couldn't prepare this attack, so they couldn't mass forces, so they couldn't achieve surprise. He sets down the casualty list. We relieved Bastogne in 48 hours. Brilliant. But if we'd been properly supplied in September, we'd have been positioned to stop this attack on day one, maybe prevent it entirely. How many of these 81,000 casualties could have been avoided? Vaughn has no answer. The historians will remember the relief, Blackwood continues. They'll celebrate the speed, the aggression, the tactical brilliance, but they won't ask the question that matters. What question, sir? Why were we 100 miles away when Germans attacked? Why weren't we threatening the German border? Why weren't we maintaining pressure that prevents counterattack? He looks at Vaughn. The answer is fuel. The answer is September. The answer is Hawthorne stealing our allocation for Market Garden. The answer is 36 seconds in this office when I held a gun to a British spy's head and realized our allies were undermining us. Blackwood stands, walks to his map. We won this battle. We'll win the war. But we're winning late, winning expensively, winning while carrying the weight of opportunities lost and momentum squandered and trust destroyed. He traces the route Third Army took, from the German border, north to Bastogne. And somewhere in some alternate version of this war, Third Army maintained momentum in September, reached the Rhine in October, entered Germany in November. And 81,000 American soldiers didn't die in the Ardennes because Germans never had the opportunity to attack. May 8, 1945, Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. Third Army's statistics: 600 miles advance, 12 countries liberated, 81,000 square miles cleared, 1.3 million German prisoners taken, more ground taken, more prisoners captured, more success achieved than any American army in history. Victory is real, accomplishment undeniable. But it came late, came at a cost, came after opportunities were lost. Blackwood stands in his office, looking at a different number: 81,000. Battle of the Bulge casualties. He thinks about September, about fuel, about 36 seconds. Wonders how many of those 81,000 would be alive if September had gone differently. June 1945. Third Army headquarters being dismantled. Blackwood packing his personal effects. Letters, maps, the ivory-handled pistols. Vaughn enters. Sir, this arrived. Personal letter, from England. Blackwood opens it, recognizes the handwriting immediately. Major Elliot Ashford. Dear General Blackwood, I write knowing you may not read this, knowing you have every right to destroy it unopened. I was wrong, not just mistaken. Wrong. I told myself I was following orders, told myself I was serving the Alliance, told myself operational transparency helped everyone. I was lying to myself. I was gathering intelligence on allies for competitive advantage, and men died because of it. I've been reassigned to administrative duties. My career is over. That's appropriate. That's just. But I wanted you to know I understand what I did. I understand why you put that gun to my head. And I understand that you showed me mercy I didn't deserve. 36 seconds. I've relived them every night for 8 months. Will relive them the rest of my life. I don't expect forgiveness. Don't deserve it. Just wanted you to know that you were right. And I'm sorry. Major Elliot Ashford Blackwood reads it twice, then places it in his personal file. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. September 19th, 1946. 2 years later, Arlington National Cemetery, Virginia. Blackwood stands at a grave. Private First Class Thomas Brennan, age 19, 3rd Army, killed December 17th, 1944. Ardennes Forest, one of 81,000. Blackwood kneels, places his hand on the headstone. I'm sorry, son, he says quietly. We should have been there. Should have stopped it before it started. Should have been positioned in my mod instead of 100 miles away. He stands, looks across rows of white headstones. 36 seconds I held a gun to a man's head. 36 seconds I calculated whether murder was justified. And I was wrong about that too. Because killing one spy wouldn't have fixed anything. Wouldn't have gotten us fuel. Wouldn't have put us where we needed to be. His voice cracks. You died because of decisions I couldn't control. Because of politics I couldn't fix. Because allies competed instead of cooperated. And I'm sorry, I'm so goddamn sorry. He salutes, walks away through the graves, carrying the weight. December 1950, 5 years later. Blackwood's home, retired now, private life. He's writing, personal memoir, not for publication, for family. People will ask about the war, about victories, about glory. Let me tell you what I remember. I remember 36 seconds when I almost murdered an Allied officer, almost pulled the trigger, almost committed an act I couldn't take back. I remember soldiers dying in the Ardennes while I was 100 miles away, unable to help, unable to prevent, unable to do anything except arrive late and count bodies. I remember winning the war 6 months later than necessary. 6 months that cost thousands of lives. 6 months lost to politics and pride and Allied competition. They'll call me a hero. They'll celebrate the victories. They'll talk about the speed and aggression and success, but I'll remember the delays, the opportunities lost, the soldiers who died unnecessarily, and I'll wonder if I'd pulled that trigger, if I'd killed that spy, if I'd forced the issue instead of letting politics bury it. Would anything have changed? I don't know. But I know this 36 seconds defined my war. Not the victories, not the ground taken, but 36 seconds of holding a gun to an ally's head and realizing that sometimes the enemy wears your uniform. That's what I'll remember. He sets down his pen. The memoir will never be published, but it's written, and that matters. 1985. General Marcus Blackwood dies at age 100, in his sleep, at his home in Virginia, surrounded by family. His funeral is small, private, the way he wanted it. No politicians, no speeches, just family and a few old soldiers who served with him. His son finds the memoir while going through personal effects, reads it, understands for the first time what his father carried. The memoir goes into a box, sealed, to be opened after publication restrictions expire. 50 years from the date of writing, standard for military documents. December 2000, 1987, Major Elliot Ashford dies, age 77. Heart attack, quick, in his garden in Surrey. His obituary is brief. Major Elliot Ashford, British Army, retired, served with distinction in various liaison and administrative roles during World War II, survived by his wife and 2 daughters. No details, no specifics, no mention of 3rd Army or Field Marshal Hawthorne or intelligence reports. His widow finds a letter in his papers, sealed, addressed to General Blackwood. She mails it. It arrives at Blackwood's home. But Blackwood died 2 years earlier. His son opens it, reads, General, you were right about everything. I carried those 36 seconds for 43 years, every night, every time I closed my eyes. Your face, your gun. Your question, Give me one reason. I never had one. I hope you found peace. I never did. Ashford. The son files it with his father's papers. Two men, connected by 36 seconds. Both dead now. Both carrying the same burden. 1990, declassification. 50 years after the war ends. The National Archives declassify wartime documents. Standard protocol. A historian researching coalition operations finds a file, marked classified, from September 1944. File number SHAFE 1944-0919, classified. The file contains 3 intercepted transmissions, encrypted, from 3rd Army Headquarters to 21st Army Group, all sent by Major Elliot Ashford. The file contains decoded translations, showing detailed intelligence about American fuel reserves, operational capabilities, consumption rates. The file contains a report from Lieutenant Cordelia Drake, describing the decryption process, the discovery, the confrontation. The file contains witness testimony. Colonel Nathaniel Vaughn describing what happened in Blackwood's office. September 19th, 6:57 a.m. The 36 seconds. The pistol. The question that almost became murder. The file contains Garrison's private message to Hawthorne, the investigation findings, the quiet solution, and attached to everything. A handwritten note from Blackwood. 36 seconds. Finger on trigger. Calculating whether execution was justified. The answer was yes. The action was no. Politics overruled justice. Soldiers paid the price. This is coalition warfare. This is why we won late. This is what nobody will talk about. But it's true. M. Blackwood. The historian reads it twice, then 3 times, then contacts military history departments, then publishes an article. The article explodes into headlines. Declassified files reveal British espionage against American forces in 1941. General held gun to British officer's head over intelligence operation. Fuel crisis that delayed victory linked to Allied intelligence warfare. The story becomes news, becomes controversy, becomes debate. Veterans groups respond. British veterans defending Hawthorne. American veterans defending Blackwood. Historians arguing about whether this was espionage or coordination. Politicians stay silent because it's 50 years ago, because the people involved are mostly dead, because reopening old wounds serves nobody. But the truth is out. The 36 seconds happened. The gun was real. The consequences rippled through months of warfare. 1990s military historians publish assessments. The consensus emerges slowly, through analysis, through evidence, through cold calculation of what-if scenarios. The conclusion: if 3rd Army had received adequate fuel allocation in September 1944, if momentum had been maintained, if Blackwood had continued his advance without interruption, 3rd Army could have reached the Rhine River by early October, could have established bridgeheads by mid-October, could have entered Germany's industrial heartland by November. The Germans were collapsing in September, their defenses broken, their armies retreating, their resistance fragmenting. The window was open, and the window closed because fuel went to Market Garden, because Hawthorne used stolen intelligence to justify resource priority, because 36 seconds of confrontation poisoned relationships and coordination failed. The historians calculate further. If 3rd Army had maintained position through October and November, if they'd been positioned along the German border instead of 100 miles south, if they'd been the constant threat Germans had to defend against, the Battle of the Bulge might not have happened. Or if it happened, might have been blunted immediately instead of becoming 6 weeks of brutal fighting and 81,000 American casualties. The calculations are speculative. History doesn't offer proof, only possibility. But the possibility matters because 81,000 casualties aren't abstract. They're sons, brothers, fathers, husbands. They're lives that ended in snow and forest and frozen ground. They're men who might have lived if September had gone differently, if trust hadn't been broken, if allies had cooperated instead of competed, if 36 seconds hadn't revealed that coalition partners can also be enemies. 2000. Blackwood's memoir is published. 50 years after it was written, his son makes the decision. The memoir is short, honest, brutal in its self-assessment. Reviews are mixed. Some praise the honesty, some criticize the bitterness. Some question whether he should have spoken about classified operations. But one passage gets quoted everywhere. I held a pistol to a British officer's head for 36 seconds. In those 36 seconds, I understood everything about coalition warfare. We were allies fighting the same enemy, but we were also competitors fighting for resources and credit and national glory. And sometimes the competition mattered more than the alliance. That's why 81,000 soldiers died in the Ardennes, not because Germans were strong, because allies were weak. The passage becomes famous, gets taught in military academies, gets debated in classrooms, gets referenced in papers about coalition operations, because it's true, and truth matters. 2024, 80 years after the events. A documentary filmmaker finds the declassified files, decides to tell the story, interviews historians, military analysts, the few surviving relatives of participants. The documentary is called The 36 Seconds When Allies Became Enemies. It opens with the confrontation. The gun, the question, then pulls back, shows context, shows fuel crisis, shows market garden, shows battle of the bulge, shows consequences. The documentary asks questions without easy answers. Was Ashford a spy or a liaison officer following orders? Was Hawthorne optimizing resources or undermining allies? Was Blackwood justified in his fury, or did he overreact? Was Garrison right to bury the incident, or should he have exposed it? The questions linger because there are no simple answers, because coalition warfare is complicated, because competing interests and shared objectives coexist, because trust is fragile and suspicion is easy, and betrayal sometimes looks like cooperation. But the documentary ends differently than expected. Not with questions, not with debate, not with analysis. It ends with two graves, the final scene, two headstones, side by side in the frame, different cemeteries, different countries, but presented together. Left side, Arlington National Cemetery, Virginia. General Marcus Blackwood, 1885-1985, United States Army. He did his duty, right side, St. Mary's Churchyard, Surrey, England. Major Elliot Ashford, 1910-1987, British Army, faithful servant. The camera holds on both graves, different stones, different inscriptions, different countries, but connected forever by 36 seconds in a room in Nancy, France. The narrator speaks, quietly, finally. Two men, different uniforms, different loyalties, different lives. Connected by 36 seconds when one held a gun to the other's head. Connected by the weight they both carried until death. Blackwood carried the knowledge that he almost committed murder. That politics stopped him. That soldiers paid the price for his restraint. Ashford carried the knowledge that he was a spy, that he betrayed allies, that men died because of his reports. Both men lived long lives, Blackwood to 100, Ashford to 77. Neither man ever spoke publicly about September 19, 1944. But both men carried it every day until death. This is the cost of coalition warfare. This is the weight of 36 seconds. Not the question of what happened next, but the burden of carrying it forever. The screen fades, not to black, to gray, like dawn, like that morning in Nancy. Final text appears. Operation Market Garden, September 17 and 25, 1944, 14/5/89, British and Polish casualties. Third Army fuel shortage, September-November 1944, estimated 12 to 18-week delay. In advance, Battle of the Bulge, December 16, 1944. January 25, 1940, 19,000 Americans killed, 47,500 Americans wounded, 15,000 Americans captured, the 36 seconds. September 19, 1944, 6:57 a.m., carried by two men until death. File number Schaeff, 1944, 091, classified National Archives, Washington, D.C., available for public viewing. The gray fades slowly, not dramatically. Just fades like memory, like dawn becoming day. Like the way old soldiers remember wars. With weight, with silence, with the understanding that some moments define everything that comes after. 36 seconds, two men, 80 years, and a burden that outlived them both. The screen goes black. Hold 3 seconds, then not the end, just end. Because some stories don't end, they just stop. And the weight continues. For those who carry it, for those who remember, for those who understand that 36 seconds can echo through lifetimes. And the final image before complete black. That room in Nancy, empty now, morning light through the window, dust in the air, the desk where papers sat, the floor where men stood, the space where 36 seconds happened. Nothing dramatic, just a room, just space, just memory. Because that's all that remains. Space and memory and weight. The weight of 36 seconds. carried forward forever.